Soho Theater. Please make it loud for Josh Johnson!
I don't know if I'm the only one who cares, but have y'all seen what's happening with Duolingo? Okay, in case you're not familiar, Duolingo is an app where you learn other languages, supposedly. It's basically this app where they gamify learning another language through like quizzes and little mini games, little mini quests and stuff. And I'm not gonna say it doesn't work, but everybody I know that uses Duolingo still speaks English to me. Just throwing that out there. And you know, over time it was getting more expensive, and over time there would be mistakes that were in the games and in the programs, which were kind of, I don't know how you would put it, but basically it was kind of forgivable because you felt like you were getting that real-time help through a person, you know? So then a person would see through comments, oh, this is messed up, oh, let me fix it, it actually should have been like this. And you were really getting like a sort of language learning community going under Duolingo, which is the point, you would think, to learn a new language, to talk to more people. It'd be kind of weird to learn language just to be like, I did it. And no one will ever know. I'm just gonna go to whole countries, know what they saying and not tell anybody. I have the power. I only think like a psychopath would do that. Like I've seen those viral videos of people being like in Japan and no one thinks that this black person in Japan speaks Japanese, so then they like are recording themselves or they're streaming and then someone says something about them and then they're like, boom, I know Japanese. And the person's like, what? How? You don't look like it. You know? That actually would have been a fire ad for Duolingo back in the day. It's just like, have you like eating at like a fast food spot, everyone around you roasting you, everybody getting one in, like, and the back of his head, look at it, look, I can see right through it. Does he even know he got that bald spot? The bald spot fighting for his life is shiny. It's like a flashlight. And then you bounce back, you're like, I know French. What? I'm so embarrassed. I was being rude in undercover. Duolingo. But no, that's not what happened. You know, people were slowly learning these languages over time. And learning is like a hard, it's a hard way to describe it because it's not as if the language was fully being taught. It's not like the same thing as sitting in a class being taught the tenses, being taught the situations to say certain things versus other things. It's more just like, did you spell we right? That's a little French. Have some of that. And so over time, you see Duolingo also get this internet presence that's like, their socials team is very like in vogue. You know, they get in there, they're funny in the comments, spicy comments too. Sometimes they got a quick jab back whenever somebody tries to trash Duolingo. And I don't know how I feel about it. If I'm being honest, it's like through our tax systems and through the economy, we already treat these companies like people. I don't know if I want to pretend that they're also interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like when I see a Twitter handle for a company, I don't want to be like, oh, they're so moody today. I can't believe Microsoft's so angry. You know, because it's not like it's not an individual, it's a company. And there are individuals making that company feel like your friend, but they're not your friend. They're not your friend at all. And then they do this move, which is wildly unpopular, where they release a statement where they say, we're going to be an AI-first company, which is an interesting title to give yourself. You could have said customer first. You could have said teacher first. And you could have not said anything. already noticing, they were like, I think there's like less people working there now. I feel like some of my answers don't get answered in the right way. Some of the lessons even feel a bit like Chat GPT-ish, you know? And then they came out and said it. They're like, look, we're going to use AI and you're going to learn just the same as you've been learning. And I had friends who were like, I'm not learning anything already. And honestly, what's the fun of using Duolingo if you could just use any sort of like open AI, any sort of AI program to make your own learning course? If it's AI, then what's special about it? And so you see people, big backlash. Every time they even tweet, post anything, people are like, was this written by AI? You know? And it gets to the point where I don't really know if they were hacked or not, or if that's just like part of the marketing scheme, but basically they took down everything. Because they were getting trashed. Because, you know, they want to be expensive. They want to hire less people. They want to essentially disregard, disrespect, or just get rid altogether of their teachers and have you pay, I think, $20 a month to not learn French. And so people were rightfully upset. And so they take everything down, and then they post it again, and they post it as the is it a frog? I mean, I think it's a bird. It's an owl? So they posted with a guy in a owl costume. And that guy was using like the deep, distorted voice, talking about how the elites ruin Duolingo. And I was like, yeah, but aren't you... What's happening? And then I think it was the CEO that even came out, and instead of giving some sort of statement that basically says, hey, look, yes, we're going to be using AI, but we're still going to have our teachers, and our teachers are going to just use AI for some of the menial tasks, but you'll still be talking to a teacher. Instead of reassuring the customers at all, he kind of just doubled down and was like, look, the AI is going to be better than teachers anyway. That people got really mad. And I think what's happening here is what's happening all the time. Teaching is hard. Teaching is very difficult. And if you love something and you love it enough to teach it, that to me is amazing. I don't know if I know anything well enough to teach it. And I don't know if I have the patience to convey those ideas in an efficient enough way that you know what I know when I'm done talking. That's scary. I would never try to teach. I don't know, even things that I'll admit right now, even things that I'm pretty sure about, I don't know enough about to teach. I believe in climate change, but if you asked me about climate change when I got done talking about climate change, you wouldn't believe in climate change. When I got done talking, you'd be like, everything he said sound made up. Because teaching is very, very difficult, and we forget. From every perspective, teaching is difficult. It's difficult in and of itself alone to be in your head, have the idea, convey the idea in a way that gets through someone else's head. You gotta get past all the video games and all the crushes and all the, just to be like, math. That's already hard enough. Never mind the fact that like kids are difficult. I'm not just talking about like junior high or all of them. I remember being difficult as a kid. I wasn't trying to be difficult. I wanted to learn the thing. It was not getting in. I was fighting it. I didn't even know it. Sometimes I'd even be a little pompous, you know? Like I'll admit it, as a little kid, give me some grace. As a child, I was a flat earther. When I was little, I was a flat earther because, my teacher tried to teach me about the globe and all the countries around the globe and stuff like that and how the earth was round. I was like, Just gonna throw this out there for you. Feels pretty flat to me. I know I haven't been all over the world, but never been, sideways. So I think it's pretty flat. Sorry to embarrass you while you're talking to the whole class, but... And then my teacher very graciously was like, oh, yeah, this is sadly a common misconception. It's not actually flat. The earth is round. I'm like, oh, huh. Not to contradict you, ma'am, but if the earth is round, why are all the maps flat? Truly, as an 8-year-old, I thought I had a mic drop moment. I was like, I rest my case. That's up there with you. You the one projected that thing. So, maybe I should have the chalk. I'm just saying. And then my teacher pulled out a globe. Because it's difficult. And look, I'm not a parent. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a parent the same way I can't imagine what it's like to be a teacher. But I see some of the friction that parents have with teachers sometimes, whether they think that they could do it better or that they think it must not be their kid, it must be the teacher. And I thought that all would have been settled through COVID. You remember that time where everybody was alone with their kids? To see how well they sort of grasped everything? I don't think enough teachers got an apology. I feel like 2021, you should show up to your kid's school and be like, I didn't know he just wouldn't take the words in. Like, I really thought it was you this entire time, but nah, he hates science. That's his kryptonite. It's also hard because I think the way that we look at teaching is as the obstacle as opposed to as the help, right? Like even now, if someone tries to teach you something, there's some reluctance there sometimes. What it used to be, you're a kid and these adults, they don't know what they're talking about and try to teach me something. And then you become an adult and you're like, why do you think you can teach me something? We're the same age. And then you get older, and then someone younger than you has something to say, and you're like, why do you think you can teach me something? You don't even know about the world, right? So I think that a lot of people, myself included, sometimes have a reluctance to learning in general, especially because there's a sort of like hubris around getting an idea. When you get an idea, you feel like you got it. I snatch that, It's like when people say that they're self-taught, but then they tell you how they taught themselves. I went to my friend's house. He built a whole deck. And I was like, that's incredible. I didn't know you did construction. He's like, I don't. I was like, how'd you build a deck? He's like, self-taught. And I was like, how did you teach yourself to build a deck? And he's like, I just watched this guy on YouTube for like 75 hours or whatever. I had to watch some of the videos over and over again because I was scared I was going to mess up my cuts and everything. But then I got it, yeah. Then he taught you. That's not self-taught at all. 75 hours of listening to some other dude talk, he might as well have been here. Because there's a deep respect that I have for teachers because they cared about something so much that they were willing to learn more about it than they ever probably had to, just to teach it to someone else, to share the thing that they love. My math teacher loved math so much that she went to more school for math, and then she came back, got a teaching degree, and then came back and taught a lower math than she understood. She has to dumb down math every day just to bring it to me, and just to try to give me some math. She went through all that, and I don't know how we did it. It's kind of incredible that all over the world, we somehow managed to not pay teachers enough and not give them enough, like in every country, no matter where you go. And so I bring it up because I think that I'm not a teacher, but I think the thing that teachers fall in love with is like that light bulb. Watching someone get something that you understand that you're giving to them, and then it clicks. And they're like, oh, whether they're a little kid, little bitty kid. I remember a teacher at school is who really taught me how to tie my shoes. Like really put it together for me in my head. Obviously, my grandma tied my shoes and would show me how to do it while she was doing it. My mom would tie my shoes. My dad would tie my shoes. But she was the one that was like, no, we're going to practice. I'm just going to tie it. We're going to practice. And so then she tied it because I ran up to her after recess. I had been falling, right? I've been tripping hard. I was doing that, you know, that Looney Tunes drag where your legs go up? Because I was getting a good start, and then I'd step on a lace, and I'd, whoa! And so, ran up to her. I was like, hey, can you help me tie my shoes? Just both, laces couldn't be further from my feet. Just, can you help me tie my shoes? And she was like, sure. And then she tied both my shoes for me. And then just like that, she pulled the string and untied them both, and I was like, oh. I'd never been betrayed before. It's like, why would you? Oh, what's wrong with you? And she was like, no, I've tied your shoes a couple days in a row. I'm not going to tie them anymore. We're going to tie them together. And so for the rest of recess, sat down, tied my shoes over and over again until the last time I tied them and I didn't even notice it. And then for the rest of the time I was in elementary school, every time she saw me, shoes tied, she saw that light bulb go off. Oh. And no matter how reluctant someone is to be taught, it's a beautiful thing when that happens. When the idea gets through and you can see it. You see the light bulb go off. Oh, it's round. Who would have thought? Well, and so I don't know what it's like. I see this move in Duolingo towards AI, and that move towards AI is not to give you, the consumer, a better product. It's not to help the actual teachers who are passionate about people learning other languages so they can make new friends or have new experiences or just open their minds up to how big the world really is. When you understand language and you understand how many different ways there are to say something specifically and how few ways there are to say something very unique, you have an appreciation for communication, right? And that's not what Duolingo is looking to do. They would like to make more money. And it's a business, so to be fair, more money would be nice. That's what you're supposed to do at business. No one shows up to business like, did you make any friends? But that is why they're making that move towards AI. And I see that thing happening in places that do make me worry. Like, I don't know much about the UK school system or anything. I don't know if it's good or bad or how y'all feel about it. I just know the stories that I've been seeing where there are some schools that are looking to introduce and implement AI teachers, like AI taking over the classroom. And I don't know, that really worries me because I think that you need a teacher, you need a person to watch you get it. That's part of the human experience. To watch you get it is great. Being in a classroom that's led by AI has to be like being in a driverless car. And you get in, and they tell you it's safe. They tell you it'll get you where you're going, but you get in, and, you know, maybe they programmed it to make sure it makes the light, but not to speed, you know. But you're in the back seat for some reason. I mean, I guess there's no wheel, so might as well. And you're just looking out the windshield the whole time like, okay, they say this is how you get there, but I've never gone this way before. And now you're just sitting there like, oh, I think you missed the left. Oh. Really nobody to talk to in here, so sort of talking to myself. Oh, that's a bus, that's a bus, that's a bus, that's a bus, that's a bus. Because one thing about being here that that I cannot stress enough, the way y'all's buses move. is wildly different than what I'm used to. If I'm being honest, I don't know how you train your bus drivers. Or what happens when a bus driver hits a person, but it looks like they're trying to find out every turn. I was crossing the street to come here, and the bus driver cut the wheel so hard in front of me and looked at me the entire time. But you're in this driverless car, and it says it's going to get you where you're going. And so maybe you should trust it. Who knows? But sometimes prefer a person, you know? I know that we don't necessarily treat everything this way. Like, the best example I can give is when it comes to school and how kids are using ChatGPT and other AI to do their homework for them or do the lesson for them and turn it in. The big fear there is that they will not know how to think to a conclusion, right? Like if we're being honest, and this isn't to disparage what anyone teaches or how they teach it, but a lot of the actual lessons you learn in school don't matter as much as you taking the steps to get to the end product, right? Like it isn't imperative that you read Mark Twain, but it is good that you read something that is not how the people that you know talk, and it's not from a time that you live in, and it opens up your mind to that the world might be different, you know? And the fear is that if kids use this thing too much, if it's completely abused, that you'll essentially graduate someone who is illiterate and not able to think critically about anything. And they'll be a doctor. And I get that. I get that fear. But you also have to look at it from the perspective of those kids, because they're essentially being told that, look, we try to teach you well so that you can go out into the world and be productive and maybe get a good job. But as far as good jobs, we're like done with those. So you're not going to get one that's going to go to AI. But don't use the AI to cheat. You got to read the whole book slow so we could be impressed by how the AI reads it fast. And so I understand how a lot of kids feel like they don't have stake in the type of future that the work that they're expected to do would link them up with, you know? Like there's this idea that if you do everything right, you'll reap the rewards, but we're already telling you the rewards won't be there by the time you get done. And so I see things like them bringing AI into these UK schools and paying for these programs. You have to ask yourself, is this really coming out of the kindness of someone's heart? Or is this to make money? Is there a company that will make money? And surely there is. Because the programs range in prices. There's one program, though, that is being implemented in school. I think, I could be wrong about the exact number, but I'm pretty sure that the amount that the program is going to cost the school is like £27,000, which I'm not saying is the best salary in the world, but you could pay that to a person, you know? And it just freaks me out because I only know what it's like in the American school system, which is scary enough. And not just because of the shootings. It's also... it's not because the I'm saying the American school system is already difficult enough because you have underpaid and overworked teachers that have to take extra jobs and just fight for their lives and then still spend their own money to get supplies for kids to do the work that they're expected to do, right? Just to like stay even slightly above water. So how can you not expect this kid who's already been given less resources than kids in other districts and kids who, you know, by some accident happen to go to a great school or happen to be in a place with money, how can you not expect them to use ChatGPT to get them to close the gap? And how can you not expect these teachers to be like, I already drive Uber, deliver pizza, and teach geography. I don't know if I can try to find the AI. You know? Because you can get really far without knowing. Actually, that's one thing I think about all the time. I don't know if your schools are good or not, but I also don't know if it matters, at least to Americans, because if you come over to the U.S. with your accent, we'll believe you. Like, people in the U.S. fall for the British accent so hard, it's kind of unfair that we were ever number one. Like even a lot of the conspiracy theories that we believe in the U.S. did kind of come from a British guy who just talks smooth. You know, like he comes over after y'all kicked him out for being too wild, and then he's like, you know, there's lizards in all the people. And we're like, when he says it, it makes sense. You know? Y'all have some phenomenal exports. But you do have some rough ones. You know? Like, why'd y'all do, like that, sending Piers Morgan to us. It almost constitutes an act of war. I don't know who else you could have sent that Boris Johnson wouldn't have been as destructive as Piers Morgan on our TV all the time. That was, what did we ever do to you? I'd like to think that the UK holds like centuries-long grudges. And like, okay, all right, y'all think you cute. You think you cute, you gonna leave me. Just wait. Wait like 200 years. I'm gonna send the most annoying man that's ever lived to be on 3 of your news stations every day. No? Because it's difficult. I mean, you can get really far without knowing much. That's scary. And that's even before AI. Ask Piers Morgan. You can get so far without knowing anything. In fact, there was a teacher in the U.S. This blew my mind. This teacher, and look, I'd have to look it up again, but I was throwing it out there. British man. It just sort of backs up my point. This dude taught in the U.S. for 8 years, and he couldn't read. He couldn't read. Imagine somebody failing you who can't read. Imagine you turn in your paper and they're like, I don't even know what this says, but it looked wrong. Like, this look like garbage, man. Nah, this dude really figured it out. This is one of those stories that kind of went semi-viral before virality was like well established. So before YouTube and like things could pop off on Twitter, Facebook, or anything, this dude got his maybe his master's or something, and started teaching. And I think he was teaching like middle school, and taught middle school for like 8 years. Could never read, but what he would do was he was very good at picking out personalities. This was his talent. This was his thing that he had used his entire life. He could read people. He couldn't read words, but he knew. He knew people so perfectly, he could laser into them, and he knew so much about you just by looking at you. And one of the things he would do every year, every semester, he would lock in on like 2 or 3 of the smartest kids in class. Just naturally smart, just genuinely gifted. And he would have them, read a paragraph or 2 to the class starting the lesson. And then he would basically, watching over them, kind of get the smart kids to teach all the other kids. And it was astounding. That's wild. I'm sure that's what they think the AI will do. I'm sure that's what this dude would lock in, and he'd just see, okay. He'd be like, today, can you read page 11? Can you read page 12? Can you read page 13? And we'll all just take notes in our books as we go. right? As the kids would be taking notes, as the other kids were reading and everything. And one of the things that he said in his defense, he's like, show me where the kids that I taught aren't proficient in what I was teaching. You know, my methods work. And it's fitting that he was teaching middle school too, because middle schoolers are some bullies. A middle schooler is the only one with the real audacity to be like, I don't think he can read. That would never happen in higher education. Like, if you're getting your master's and your professor can't read, you would second guess yourself. You'd be like, no, I must be missing something. He must just be like so locked in that he never looks at the book. No, only a middle schooler would be like, I bet you he can't read, dog. Because a middle schooler will blackmail you too. A middle schooler would be like, hey, look, it's A's for me and my boys the rest of the year. Or we telling everybody you can't read. That's A, as in the first letter. There's A as in the first letter that you can't read because you can't read, okay? If I even see a closed A that look like a B, I'm telling everybody. Imagine that. Imagine getting caught. Imagine principal, vice principal got to pull you into the office. You sitting down, you know, because the kids loved him. He never gave homework. You sitting down, what's going on, y'all? How's everything going? We need to talk to you about something that's a bit troubling. We are hearing, it's honestly hard to even say this out loud. I feel so embarrassed even bringing it up, but there have been some accusations by some students and maybe a few parents as well that you ooh. Because you gotta think about it. If you're wrong, you look so crazy as the principal. If you're wrong, you look like you believe everything you've ever been told in your life. If you're a principal that drags a teacher into a room to be like, can you read? Like, you hired me. Like, can I read? Principal sitting him down. Okay, look, so there have been some concerns and some accusations by some students and some parents that your literacy is not in the room with us. You know, and I don't know if they would have the teacher in there by himself or they'd have the kid that accused him of not being able to read because he didn't get the A he wanted. Maybe he's sitting there. Teacher, this is preposterous. You know, words you say when you don't know how to spell it. This is preposterous. Me not be able to read. What? How dare you? How absolutely dare you? Kid sitting there. Make him read something. Make him read something. He gonna do it anyway if he can do it. They try to get him to sign his resignation letter. They're like, can you read it? I'm not even gonna dignify that with a response. Kid sitting there, that means no. No? And that's my fear. That's my big fear is that you let this system start, it only benefits companies, and before you know it, it's an entire generation, an entire country of people who aren't proficient in thinking skills. They can't think critically. They're not truly literate. And never mind not just reading for fun. They do not really grasp how important reading is, because you can either cheat the AI or the AI has the best interests of the company in mind. Because that's another thing that was happening with Duolingo. It's just all these ads started popping up, ads for companies, because they're a company that's trying to make money, you know? And so what if that happens? What if you implement so much AI into all of these schools and it goes left? How fast can you train an entire generation of teachers that were burned out and underpaid and overwhelmed to begin with? You know? That means that you could have an entire generation of UK teachers coming to the US not knowing how to read and teaching our kids not to read. Could be a disaster. Never underestimate the power and the impact that a teacher can have on your life. I remember a teacher sat me down and told me something I didn't even know about myself. This teacher sat me down and told me, you got a lot of nervous energy. Like and I was like in middle school where you can't even be polite. You just got to get right to the point. Like they just sat me down. You got a lot of nervous energy. All right. You ever thought of drawing? Just channel it somehow. Right. I was like, oh no, I never thought to draw. I love anime. Yeah, maybe I'll draw. And I drew something and my teacher was like, draw something, bring it to me. I'd like to see what you draw. And so I did. And when I showed my teacher my drawing, they were like, we're going to find something else. For you to do with your energy. All right.
Philadelphia, please make it loud for Josh Johnson!
When I was growing up, I had a friend who was like a latchkey kid, and he would get off the bus, and he had 2 hours to himself before his parents came home. So he'd get off the bus, he'd open the door in the house, he had full reign of the house. And we're still little, but he's like old enough to, go ahead and make himself a grilled cheese if he wants something, anything, just till his parents get home. And one day he comes home and his parents had a get together the night before, and he sees laid out just a little bit left of some wine. And he's like, oh wow, I know that this is grown-up juice, but I want to try it because I'm not supposed to have it, because I know I'm not supposed to have it, right? And so picks it up and he's weighing the options in his head. He's like, I could try it, but what if I get caught? I'd be in so much trouble. Oh, but I really want it. Maybe nobody will know. And he's going over and over it in his head to the point where he decides, I'm gonna just have a little sip. And he's bringing it to his lips, and then he ends up slipping it out of his hand, drops it, stains the carpet, right? So now he's freaking out because it's like, oh no, they'll know there wasn't a stain there when they left. This is all on me. And he did what a lot of kids would do in that scenario. He made it worse. He was like, the only thing, and I can understand he's a kid, but this is a mistake that I don't think I would have made. The best thing for him to do in that moment, he thought, was to make a bigger mess. And then that way, the stain won't be so bad. So he grabbed a rock and he threw it through the window. Which was a huge mistake because he went outside to get the rock and then threw it from inside outside. He realized what he had done as soon as he did it, so then he had to go back outside, grab the rock, carefully pick up all the glass, bring it back inside, lay out the glass next to the rock, next to the stain. And then his parents get home, and when they come home, immediately they're like, oh my gosh, what happened? What happened? And he's had an hour 20 to think up a story, So he's over here like, it was crazy. They're like, what happened? You know, you got the rock going through the windows, all this glass on the floor and this stain. He's like, well, the stain's probably not as big of a deal as the broken window when you really think about it, right? And they're like, what happened? And he says, well, you know, the rock came through the window and it must have hit the glass that had the wine in it, the wine that really shouldn't have been left out. You know, that's an adult beverage. I'm a minor. And then it must have hit the perfect angle to hit that glass and this glass and then knock over and then make a stain on our beautiful 3-bedroom carpet. Yeah. And his parents were like, but did you see it happen? Like, how did this happen? Did somebody throw this? And he's like, uh-oh, because he didn't think that far. And so he was like, yeah, the man threw it. And they were like, what man? And now he's in deep because he's like, yeah, what man? What am I doing? And so he's like, yeah, there was a man that, you know, threw the rock through the window and everything. And you saw him? Yeah, I saw him. He threw it and you know, he ran and everything. And he thought maybe that would be the end of it. But from his parents' perspective, there was someone who threw a rock into the window, maybe to get inside while their son was home. So they had more and more questions and he didn't know what to do. He was freaking out, you know? Next thing he knows, the police have been called, and the police come over, and they're like, what did the man look like? And they over here taking notes and stuff, and he's like, he doesn't know what to say next because he didn't think this far. And that's how I feel like Trump must feel about Epstein, because it goes so deep. It's like he didn't think this far in the lies. Like he just didn't account for it. He thought he could make it quiet, you know? It's not gonna be pitched as a direct and absolutely direct order from Trump, what the DOJ did, but the DOJ came out after interviews saying, oh, there's so much information, we're just trying to figure out how to put it out there in a way that's clear. Oh, there's so many files, there's a list of names, there's logs, there's a client list. After saying all this stuff in the media, the DOJ comes out and says, actually, the investigation is closed, we're not gonna be prosecuting anybody else, and I think we got to the bottom of it. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That's not going to stand at all. That's not going to stand with anybody, because you got to remember who Trump garnered with this belief that he released the Epstein files. He's got MAGA, sure, but he also has Q. Nobody talks about Q anymore, but they're still around. And they believe deeply that Donald Trump is going to be the one to unleash all of the truth. All the evidence will come out. When Trump is president, he'll turn over everything on the powerful cabal that has been victimizing people across the world. And then he's like, hey, yeah, there's no... And I think he thought that he could really bury it, that he could truly bury it. But he's wrong. He's wrong because there are a lot of things that he didn't account for. There are people that Trump controls. There are people who he orders around, and there are people who blindly follow him, sure. But he didn't count on things like Jeffrey Epstein talking before he died to a biographer for like 100 hours, like just a ridiculous amount of time. I have friends I don't think I've spoken to for 100 hours. 100 hours, you probably say a lot of nothing, and you probably say some pretty interesting stuff. Those 100 hours of conversation is how we know that Trump and Epstein were tight for years. Well, even Epstein said he knows some of the inner workings of the White House because him and Trump would just chop it up. You know what I mean? That's heavy. That's a lot to try to sidestep. And Trump's been making mistakes this whole time. Even when Epstein died, right? Epstein dies, he was in jail and he passed. Who can say how? Ghislaine Maxwell gets, charged, has a whole trial, gets convicted, sentenced to 20 years in prison. And apparently what we're hearing now is that at the time, Trump floated pardoning her. And the people that heard that almost couldn't believe it. Why would he pardon her? That's crazy. And it's like, actually, it's not that crazy when you see the picture of all them hanging out, like, in the 90s, and they met in the 80s, and they used to fly around together. Like, that's his buddy. And he even said himself, these are his words out of his mouth, when asked about Ghislaine Maxwell during the trial, he said, I wish her well. Somebody that's on trial for trafficking. Somebody with ties to you. I wish her well. And then people were like, why would you wish her well? And then they brought it up again, and Trump was like, I wish lots of people well. And we were like, no, you don't. I've been watching you the whole time. I don't think you wish anybody well that I've seen. All you come up with is nicknames. Man floated pardoning her. That's crazy. And then the DOJ comes out, hey, yeah, this is done. Nothing else to see here. And people were having a hard time wrapping their heads around that. People who usually stump for Trump hard. No matter what he says, they manage to twist it in a way that maybe could make sense to you, and they'll say that that's what he means. One of the reasons that Trump can do everything that he does and it comes off a different way to everybody is because so many people think that they're the Trump whisperer. Trump will say something out of nowhere, and then there'll be people like, well, what he actually meant was something more reasonable that I'm going to say right now. And I'll be like, that's interesting, because he didn't say any of those words in that order when he was speaking. And I think he had a teleprompter, so I don't see how that's possible. And so everybody thinks that they can be the Trump whisperer, and it's just not working this time. You see people trying to come up with why Trump, why the FBI, why the Attorney General would all of a sudden, what feels like out of nowhere, try to shut this whole thing down, right? Alex Jones, of all people, saw what the DOJ did, and he made a video crying. I think it's very important. When a man shows emotion, not to just ridicule him for it because it's easy. But Alex Jones cries weird. Alex Jones cried weirder than anybody I've ever seen in my life. I don't wish anything good for Alex Jones, but to see him cry felt like something happened to me too. Like, it's... Alex Jones is up here like, folks. Like his eyelids were doing sit-ups, crying. I'm sick to my stomach, and I just can't believe this thing is happening. Wipe your face, dog. Like, and even Alex Jones trying to come up with something. He's like maybe the deep state got to him, and the deep state is like in his body, and that's why he's doing this stuff right now. And then he'll be back to normal after he has one of my protein shakes. You can go to my website and buy frog protein for $19.99. No, it was crazy. Because Alex Jones, you gotta remember, this dude is a proper conspiracy theorist. Old school. There's something deeper behind everything at all times. And I'm not talking about like chemtrails. I'm not talking about like government operations. There's something deeper behind everything that happens all the time. Hillary Clinton went on The Tonight Show. Pretty sure this was on The Tonight Show, and she was trying to open a jar of pickles, right? I don't remember what the bit was, but that's what was happening. And Alex Jones pulled it up, and right after she opened the jar, he was like, you see? Do you see what happened right there? Hillary Clinton didn't open that jar. Now, in the video, she has opened the jar. Hillary Clinton didn't open that jar. That jar was pre-opened. All right? You can tell because there was no pop. There's supposed to be a pop. There's supposed to be a... There's supposed to be a... There was no... I brought the same jar. I'm going to open for it right now. And this man spends a while trying to open the jar. He spends an uncomfortable amount of time trying to open the jar. I think at one point he even had a rag too. You know, like those kitchen tricks you use? He over here, you know, sometimes you like tap the top of it, you like... And he's like, I can't even open it right now, folks. That's how you know this thing right here, she didn't open that jar. So imagine Alex Jones on Epstein. No. I just think about the way that MAGA has been reacting. Because it is a full-on revolt. Truly. It's a thing that they cannot fathom is happening. Whether it's Q, whether it's MAGA, or whether it's just people who have been following the Epstein case from the beginning. Because you got to remember what Epstein stands for. He is the ultimate boogeyman. He is the ultimate beacon for people that believe that all the elites are in on something together. And it's easy to make him that because he had an island, billionaires were flying around, people went to him for tax advice and for law advice. He was this financier, even though I don't think he had a law degree and he wasn't a CPA. So it's like, what are you doing with people's taxes that you helping? And so this dude, he represents a lot. He stands for a lot in conspiracy theory world and in just the regular world. This is someone who has ties to billionaires, to royalty, who come to him for horrific acts. And now you're telling us, there's nothing else to see here. There's nothing else to see between, me and him especially. There's nothing. Don't look. Stop. And so then Trump, for his part, is watching this whole thing go down, and he's watching people argue about it in front of him, people who are, in his administration and on his side, argue about the best way to handle it, going back and forth. Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, all names that sound like they're about to be called down on The Price is Right. Like... all three of them are constantly going at it because then, Bongino is upset with Pam because he thinks that Pam overpromised and underdelivered and everything. Why would you even say that this stuff was coming unless you had a plan? You were just talking in front of the camera. And then Pam is going back at him, and Trump's watching this whole thing. And then in a press conference, they even asked him, they actually asked Pam Bondi a question about the tapes and the DOJ's memo and everything. And Pam Bondi was ready to answer. She was about to speak, and Trump interrupted her. He's like, hey, look, are we still talking about this guy? Why? Like years? Like why? Like everybody's talking about this dude. Like, what's the point? You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I'm sick of this for you, Pam. You don't even feel like answering, do you? And Pam didn't catch. She wasn't quick enough. She was like, no, I don't mind answering. And I know Trump had to be sick when that happened. It's like... No, go ahead and answer then. And, Pam Bondi talked about how they had released a lot of stuff, because there's a difference between releasing evidence around a case or releasing vital information or declassifying things and then releasing stuff, right? So they released a bunch of stuff to look like they were releasing something. Like they released the videotape of the night that Epstein got up out of here. And the problem with the tape is that it's always been talked about as if there was a tape of his cell that would prove definitively that like nothing untoward happened, right? But the tape isn't of like Jeffrey Epstein's cell with him sitting there and everything. It's of like a hallway. And you're giving a tape to conspiracy theorists. They're gonna do some extra looking. There's like 10 hours of tape. But there is 61 seconds missing. I don't know how long it takes to kill somebody. But if there's 61 seconds missing, I'm assuming that it takes 50 seconds and gives you 11 seconds to get down the hall. And I'm not even saying that's what happened, by the way. I'm just saying 61 seconds, that's weird. And they asked Pam Bondi about it, and Pam Bondi is like, look, it's a very old system from the 90s where the tape resets at midnight, so it takes a second to like reset, and that's why 61 seconds are missing. And I had a lot of questions. I had a ton of questions. One, my first question, didn't even concern Epstein. My first question was, why are you telling everybody that? Because that is very valuable information if you're a prisoner in that. Because you know what they play in prison, the news. You probably sit there in Gen Pop like, wait, it what? Every day? I gotta go take care of something. So she says, look, this is the way that system works. So we're actually gonna be supplying more video footage to show that there's a minute missing every night. And I was like, why would you say that? The people in prison can hear you. But also, that's a pretty bad system. It was supposed to be watching somebody, and it takes a minute to blink. That's pretty wild. That it's just gonna be missing every day, and you're telling us that like it's not an issue at all. Felt crazy to me. And then they release the video, and then people go digging, they go looking, and one of the things they find is that the video has been doctored. Somebody at some point ran the video through Adobe Premiere and did something. And I'm not saying, look. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Adobe Premiere, all right? All I'm saying is I would have thought the government, with all their resources, you know what I mean? Like the government would have like a special program. That just feel pretty cheap to make an Adobe Cloud account that you run this Epstein tape through. Like nobody's gonna know, so then people are wondering about the missing minute. They're wondering about how this video's been tampered with. And then even people who watch the full 10 hours of the video, because you gotta remember, some of these people are dedicated. They're like, there's actually a guard that leaves one way and never comes back, which proves that there's two ways to enter that hallway. And I was like, oh man, he's so screwed. Trump, he's very good at creating a distraction, and he tries. He did his best. He said that he was gonna revoke Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship. On any other day in American history, that would be a headline. Any other day, that'd be wild. And look, Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump have what I think is now like a 20-year feud going on, which is absolutely insane. The President of the United States has the ultimate and deepest beef. His arch nemesis is the actress from Harriet the Spy. That is mind-boggling. The leader of the free world is ready to have it out at any given moment with the voice actress from the main gorilla in the Disney movie Tarzan. The man with his fingers on the button for the nukes has a deep hatred in his heart, decades long, for Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award winner Rosie O'Donnell. This is an unacceptable timeline. That is crazy. I don't even know what Rosie O'Donnell did that day. Like, I don't know what even brought it up. But he says, you know, I'm thinking about revoking Rosie O'Donnell's citizenship. If Ireland wants to keep her, they could have her. And any other day, this would be the story. He knows that. Who knows? Look, I'm of two minds about this thing because it is clearly a distraction, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But I'm of two minds about this thing because, one, obviously, there's a world where he's just like saying stuff to say stuff to like swiftly like move the news cycle in another direction, and he may not do anything. But the fact, as a sitting president, that he would even muster up the corner of his thumbs to put that into a phone to go out to the world is so deeply insane. Because this thing that he's doing now is not just a step too far, it's the entire field too far. Rosie O'Donnell is an American citizen, a citizen. And so if he can do that, then truly, 100% without a doubt now, nobody is safe. What started this whole like immigration, fear-mongering, you gotta remember, because you have to understand, as a platform, people have been running on it as long as there have been, you know, green cards and immigration programs. Oh, is it a little too much? Oh, we don't like what it's doing to the landscape of our neighborhood and everything. And people have won votes on it. That's nothing new. But what's turned is the way that people are openly nasty and disgusting about it. There's always been racism in it. It's mainly what it is, you know? Because if you really cared about people coming over the right way, the legal way, then you would make the right way and the legal way clear, and you wouldn't kidnap people at their green card interviews, and you wouldn't have like mass people picking people up after baseball practice, okay? If that's what you cared about. And you also, you know, you've structured this thing to make these people seem like monsters. That's been the plan this entire time, because if somebody is a monster, it is part of the human condition and a flaw that we have. As long as we see somebody as a monster, whether they are or not, we don't really care what happens to them. You know? It's why they can make conditions in prison so bad, because the assumption is, well, everybody that's there deserves to be there, so screw them, right? If they don't have a clean water, or if they can't shower, or if their food's contaminated, good. Because they did something bad to earn that place, right? And it helps you strip the basic humanity of looking at another person, whether they've made a mistake or not, or looking at another person, whether from a different country or not. And if you get really good at stripping that humanity away, you can do whatever you want, and then you start to be able to do whatever you want to anybody that you want. And that's what's been creeping up this entire time. What started as like, guys, they're eating the dogs. Remember, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Nobody's pets are safe. It was getting so dumb. It was past like, these are criminals and they're killing us and they're coming over here to do terrible things. And then it started to morph a little bit more. Okay, look, I know that they're going through the proper channels and everything, but they have a misdemeanor in another country. Do we really want somebody like that to become a citizen? Maybe we should deport them now. No, I understand that they have their green card, but they also, I don't know, they have this weird past out like, or they wrote an op-ed I didn't like, or they said a thing that I didn't like. So do we really want someone like that in our country? I know that they are a fully naturalized citizen. But the way that they became a citizen is a little bit under suspect because I said so just now. So maybe we'll deport them. And now we're all the way to the point that American citizens that I do not like can be gone. And so you see, when you let somebody's humanity get stripped away over and over and over again, and it's in the back of your head, and you even go with the lie. They probably did something, or maybe they shouldn't have done that thing, or maybe they have a good reason. When you do that enough and it finally comes for you, don't be surprised. Because the thing with the Rosie O'Donnell, it's like there's a part of it that I think is nothing. I'm not saying that thing is absolutely going to happen. I'm just also saying that the fact that he even fixed his fingers to put it out is a problem. And normally, on any other day, it would have been such a problem that it's what everyone on the news would have been talking about. But this was a different day. This was a day where Dan Bongino is so upset he doesn't even report into work. He's tired of arguing with Pam Bondi. He might resign. Other people are talking about resigning. This Epstein thing isn't going away. And so then Donald Trump did what he does best, what he does in a crisis, and what he does when it counts. He made it worse. Like a kid throwing a rock through his own window. He makes it so much worse. And now Trump is dealing with that fallout. There are people calling for Pam Bondi to resign. There are people that are asking Trump extra questions. And then Trump crashes out spectacularly while y'all were probably parking. And so I'm gonna do this real quick. I don't like to use my phone or bring my phone out often, but I have to read you what Trump posted. And admittedly, look, I'm gonna read every word that he posted, all right? But I will be doing it the way that I read it in my head. This is insane. What's going on, my boys? Boys in quotations. Oh no, what's going on with my boys? Boys in quotations. And in some cases, gals? Also in quotations. Are you asking us a question about what's going on with them, or are you confused about the gals specifically? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job, all caps. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect, all caps, administration, the talk of the world, all caps, and selfish people, in quotes, are trying to hurt it, all over a guy who never dies. What? I'm not saying that Trump killed Epstein. I'm not saying that at all. I'm like specifically not saying that. I need you to understand that I am explicitly not saying that Trump killed Epstein. I'm just saying that if I was like driving in my car and I hit somebody and I somehow got away with it, but I saw them every time I closed my eyes, I'd be like, this guy never dies. All over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. This is a man who hasn't slept. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama? You know what's so good about files written by Obama is that Trump was sitting there knowing he know Epstein. Trump knows Epstein so well. They were friends. Trump lived so close to Epstein in Florida that Epstein had to knock on his door and let him know he was on the sex offender registry. Like, that's how close they lived together. He knocked on the door, was like, hi, the court has ordered me to notify you that I'm in the area. I have been convicted of a few crimes, and I left my suit jacket over here last night, so that's crazy. By Obama, and it's a list. It's why are we giving publicity to files? You know what it also is? This man was sitting here knowing that he knows Epstein. He's sitting here knowing that this looks very bad. And he did the DOJ thing, even though it's not directly tied to him, even though the president isn't allowed to interfere. He clearly did the DOJ thing where he told them to shut it down. And now people are rebelling against him. And he's sitting there like, how can I make it DEI? Obama. Thanks, Obama. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration? So I guess they were all in a room in this scenario, and they wrote the files together in tandem. Like Obama just knew that everyone in the Biden administration would be in the Biden administration one day, so he gathered them all together. But this is also before Epstein ever died or anything. So Obama time traveled to like right after to know it would hurt Trump. So then he came back in regular time and he sat down Hillary Clinton, Comey, Brennan, and the loser. He had to get all the losers and criminals of the Biden administration in one room so they could write. Also, wrote the files? Isn't it a bunch of documents? And the losers and criminals of the Biden administration, I do like that he said there are criminals in the Biden administration, but there are some people who aren't criminals. They're just losers. But I want to make sure I address them too. You're not safe. You're not safe just because you're not a criminal if you're a loser as well, all right? In fact, you're a loser because you're not a criminal, all right? I have 34 felony convictions, and I'm the president, okay? You out here not even a criminal. You can't even criminal good. Loser. And the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with Russia, Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, intelligence is in quotes, the laptop from hell. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I really don't know what that is. I don't know if that's like Hunter Biden's laptop or a laptop with Hillary's emails on it, or if he just had a bad experience with an HP laptop. But like, that is also in all caps. The laptop from hell and more, ? They created the Epstein files just like they created the fake, all caps, Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me. And now my so-called friends, this man hurt because my so-called friends, as a world leader, my so-called friends is the most Regina George Mean Girls line I've ever heard in my entire life. My so-called friends is wild. Foreign diplomats, world leaders had a dinner that Trump was at, and they made fun. This is his first term. They made fun of him at the dinner. He could probably hear him in the background. They were laughing. It was like Boris Johnson and Justin Trudeau and other people, and they were over here doing him. They were over here like just making fun of him hard, cracking up, talking about how he doesn't know how to spell, everything. They were getting him good. They were roasting him. And then this man comes back to the U.S. and I'm pretty sure it was Fox News that played the tape that somebody got of them making fun of him, not with a bunch of audio, and his head was down a little bit. You could tell his feelings were hurt, for real. And he was looking down and everything. And he just said, yeah, I didn't know that, like, they were, like fake like that or anything. Even in that moment, he didn't say my so-called friends. My so-called friends is insane. And now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? And this is good. This is clever. He's doing what he does. This is the Republican talking point that's going to go around. Look for it over and over and over again. Well, why didn't Biden release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that could hurt Trump, that could derail MAGA, why didn't he release it? All right. right, that's the most I know you are, but what am I logic I've ever heard in my life? Because you're the president now, so you could release him. I know that Biden didn't release him, but you could release him. You could. You could release him if you wanted. You could, like you could. You could, like I dare you. I was just saying, like I dare you. I bet you won't. I bet you're too scared. I bet you won't. But you could. I know Biden didn't, but you're the president now, and I thought you were a better president, so you could. You could do anything that Biden didn't do. You said that. You were like, there's a bunch of things Biden can't do that I can do, that only I can do, and one of those things is release the Epstein files. Like, do it. I bet you won't do it, though, because you're scared. No, it's just funny, man. This man, he's going through it. Why didn't they use it? They haven't even given up on the John F. Kennedy or the MLK Jr. files, which is a terrible idea to bring up different conspiracy-laden things while you talk about there not being a conspiracy. That's crazy. That's a terrible move. This man is derailing. No matter how much success we have had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, it's never enough for some people. This man is spiraling. It's never enough for some people is not what a president says. It's never enough for some people is not how you speak as a president. That's how you speak as a dad who just finished a 16-hour shift and somebody tells you to take out the trash. It's never enough for you people. Every day, I've been awake for 24 hours. It's my birthday. Yeah, thanks for the time. It's never enough for some people. We are about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in over 100 years. And that's true. That's true. We're all going to die. And we have so much more to do. We are saving our country and making America great again, all caps, which will continue to be our complete priority, all caps. The left is imploding. Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Let Pam Bondi do her job, all caps. She's great, all caps. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and they tried to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she's looking into as AG, and much more. 1 year ago, our country was dead, all caps. Now it's the hottest, all caps, country anywhere in the world. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. There's a thing I read about a long time ago. There was this leader named Father Yod, and Father Yod was the head of the Source family. The Source family was this collection of people. Some people called them a cult and everything, but they mostly kept to themselves. Like, they ran like a vegan restaurant, I think, and they just minded their own business. But one of the most interesting things about Father Yod was Father Yod told them early on, before it was ever even really a cult, before there were even a lot of members, I'm God, and don't go to a hospital. That was his thing. And that happens in a lot of cults, by the way. Don't go to the hospital because hospitals are full of experts who can provide answers that I can't. So if I can cut you off from other experts, if I can cut you off from people reasoning in a way that is just direct with logic, I've already started to bring you into the fold in a way that you'll never leave. And so Father Yod would tell them, don't go to a hospital, right? And so they didn't. Members of the Source family would not go to a hospital. And they did what I would say was generally well for a cult as far as length. A lot of cults fall apart in those first few years. You know what I mean? First year, everything sort of starts out good. Everybody's just having a good time, making friends, living in a commune and everything. And then year two, somebody try to get you drink something. or do something else. Just people start coming for your mouth, you know what I mean? And like all sorts of ways that get uncomfortable, and that's usually when the cult falls apart, because there are people that are like, oh, I'm not gonna do that, I'm not gonna drink that, oh, that's weird, no, I'm gonna go, right? And then that's when leaders sort of crumble and start having power grabs, and they get paranoid and everything. This didn't really happen, at least from what I read, to the Source family, Father Yod, and they stayed together long enough that there were members of the community that started coupling and even having children. And it got to the point where they were about to have the first baby born into the Source family, but they can't go to a hospital. They can't go to a hospital, and something like feels wrong. And no one can really describe what it is, but basically this member starts going into labor in real time. So everybody is looking over to Father, you said you were God. You told us not to go to the hospital. I think you're gonna have to deliver this baby. And so this man does it. He delivered the baby, but when the baby came out, it wasn't making any noise. And it wasn't moving at all. And people started crying. Everyone was devastated. There was so much joy around having a new person in the family. And Father Yod, he did something. I don't know what he did, but the members described it as him just clearing the airway gently a little bit, and out of nowhere, after all that silence, after no movement, the baby cried and it started moving. And if he thought he had followers then, if he thought that they were believers then, we don't need a hospital. And it got to the point where one day Father Yod was like, you know what, I'm done with this whole like earthly thing. I'm tired of healing y'all and everything. Everybody coming up to me all the time, I got a cold. Because that's what he would do. People would like have a cold, and then he'd be like, blah, 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 and then they would still have a cold, and they just get over it in 2 weeks because it was a cold, right? But then when they finally got over the cold, he'd walk by and be like, did it? And it's like, all right, well. And so it was one day Father Yod said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take a vacation. Get away from y'all for a little bit. I'll come back, but I'm gonna take a vacation. I'm gonna take it in heaven. And so he got on a 1,300-foot cliff with a glider. Because I guess he thought he was gonna glide up enough to just like get to heaven's front door or something. Like this man is truly like lost to the sauce, right? He'd been leading the cult too long. He believed him now. I wish I had half the confidence. Because that's so crazy to think you're just gonna fly up to heaven and stay up there, but you also need a glider. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least people on ecstasy think they gonna just fly immediately, you know? This dude gets on the glider, takes off, and never did this before in his life. Wasn't trained or anything. And so he jumps off the cliff in the glider, and he goes perfectly down. He goes straight down. This man, bow, right? And so the followers like, oh, he went the wrong way. And then they come down the cliff and everything, and they come to get him. He laid out. I can't even do it. He laid out. He laid out like, but not like busted up. He's not dead. He's laid out like this. And didn't have any, to what I read at least, he didn't have any significant, any substantial like bruising or markups on his body. Another miracle, you would think. Turns out everything stayed intact, but his guts were all upside down. Like this man stayed perfectly in his body, but his lungs were in his feet. Like and so they run up on him, and he over here laid out like, I can't even do it right. Like he laid out like, when they find him, glider crash, he laid out like this. And they run up there like, Father, Father. And he's like, get me to a hospital. Get me to a hospital now. And the followers are like, what? And he's like, yeah, the one on 32 Roscoe, please. Hurry up and get me to a hospital. And there's different accounts of this. I'm sure that there's followers that say he never asked for a hospital. I'm sure there's followers that say he asked for a hospital immediately. But this dude is like, get me to a hospital. And then the followers are like, what? Why though? Like, you said never go to a hospital. You said that that's not real science in there. You said that you get sicker if you go to a hospital. We can't take you to a hospital. And he said, get me to a hospital. I'm serious. Oh, I feel something upside down. You know what it probably sounded like? I mean, I'm not there. We don't have the footage or anything. But I imagine if you fall 1,300 feet down, you probably sound like that grape lady. Remember that grape lady that was crushing the grapes, and then she fell, and then she went, arr, 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 arr. Off camera, we didn't see her. Because I'm sure when he said, get me to a hospital, they really didn't understand what he was saying at first, because he was like, get me to a... I think my spine behind my balls. Get me to a hospital. But then my man looked intact. So they're like, no, he doesn't need a hospital, he just needs rest. And then he died 9 hours later. And so when I see the way that like MAGA is turning on Trump, it just feels so much like, why would you? Wait. Why would he lie? He really doesn't understand. Trump truly doesn't understand why this thing won't go away. And it's because he doesn't understand people. You know? Whether it's, the MAGA base, whether it's Q, whether it's anybody online, anybody interested or concerned about anything to do with Epstein, all those people are people. So if you lead people on and you lie to people, they have a reaction. You can't just get something and give nothing in return. And people won't let it go, and they won't give up on it, because this man is real. He really existed. And he really destroyed a lot of lives. And for all of our faults as humans, we care about that. And so no, we're not just gonna let it go. It's not like some passing fad of a thing. I think it is to him, because he just uses what he needs while he needs it to get what he wants. And once he has it, he throws it or the person who gave it to him away. And it's something that some people are finding out right now, that he'll betray you on a dime. Nothing matters to him. Because if this thing doesn't matter to him, then nothing matters to him at all. There's no way around it. People care because vulnerable people were victimized for a very long time. And whatever part you had to do with that, it can't be covered up, because there's nothing that screams, I'm in the Epstein files, like, stop looking for the Epstein files. One thing that I thought was incredible, one thing that put a smile on my face, was when Rosie O'Donnell responded to Donald Trump talking about revoking her citizenship. And I know I don't like to pull out my phone, but I want to read you what she said. You can actually look. You can actually. This is on her Instagram, so you can actually look this up for yourself. I'm not kidding. This is crazy. So first thing she does is post a picture of Trump and Epstein together, which is genuinely hilarious. And is Rosie O'Donnell posted in the caption, "Hey Donald, you rattled again? 18 years later, I still live rent-free in that collapsing brain of yours." I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I watch the news all the time. I watch people try to defend Trump. I watch people attack Trump, and I'm chronically online. So I watch people insult Trump all day long, and I have never come across collapsing brains. Collapsing brain would actually explain everything. It would explain the made-up words. It would explain the spelling. You call me a threat to humanity, but I'm everything you fear. A loud woman, a queer woman, a mother who tells the truth, an American who got out of the country before you set it ablaze. You built walls, I built a life. My autistic kid in a country where decency still exists. You crave loyalty. I teach my children to question power. You sell fear on golf courses. I make art about surviving trauma. You lie, you steal, you degrade. I nurture, I create, I persist. You are everything that is wrong with America, and I am everything you hate about what's still right with it. You want to revoke my citizenship? Go ahead and try. King Joffrey with a tangerine spray tan. Jeez. I'm not yours to silence. I never was. And then it's the Irish flag signed Rosie. And if I'm being honest, I just never expected. Like, I never expected the president of the United States to be so effectively eviscerated by one of the supporting actresses from A League of Their Own. Like, it just feels wild that this is life. Philly, y'all been phenomenal. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. I hope you had a fantastic time. I had so much fun with you. Thank you for an incredible weekend at the Fillmore. Thank you for 8 sold-out shows. I appreciate you so much.